museum trying to fight off the ghost, he like spots like an Egyptian mummy, and like basically is like, I've never seen something so pretty, and then he disappears into the sarcophagus, and then all of a sudden the sarcophagus falls down, and then you just see like sarcophagus, and you just see his body kind of keep popping up, and how like he's fucking, so it's like, where I guess old Yeller freaking sheriff.
You were sitting there like, what the hell is going on? And then he pops up and he's like, I like it when they lie still.
Oh my god. One of the fucking like not like did not age well lines. But like, yeah, he literally goes, I like it when they lie still like that. It's like,
does it make it better? Does it make it better now that you know that it's Gomez Adams? Are back. Welcome back to the Movie Dads podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Howie.
I'm Kyle.
That's Kyle. Kyle, we're back. Episode number 25. 25.
I said 24.
25. Last week's 24. This episode number 25, the 1996 Peter Jackson written and directed, Michael J. Fox starring horror comedy, The Frighteners. Kyle, this is I can't believe you haven't seen it, because I've seen it and I love this movie. But you've never seen it. And so it's not super well known, right? This is like Peter Jackson before Peter Jackson was famous, right? Like we watched way back when we watched Dead Alive and talked about how we can't believe this guy went from that movie to Lord of the Rings. And then I
can believe that guy from Dead Alive went from that movie to The Frighteners. I absolutely can make that connection.
We're making baby steps. He's transitioning. It's funny. There's actually go ahead.
I was say, when you talked about the movie, even though it was essentially my same reaction when you talked about Dead Alive, I'm like, that's not a real thing what you're talking about. Like, Peter Jackson did not make a horror movie, and he didn't make one with fucking Michael J. Fox. But when I saw basically the cover art for like the movie, I did recognize that from like Blockbuster. Basically just like a blank white picture, but there's like kind of a sharp teethed ghost face in it, and I remember that being kind of like holographic.
You gotta think it transitions well.
Oh, there it is. Yeah,
kind of
turn it the other way. Yeah, there it is. Yes.
Yeah, you get it.
So like, I remember specifically seeing that in Blockbuster and like Hollywood Video growing up, but I did not put two and two together that that's what the movie was. I had no idea Michael J. Fox was in it.
It's a cool. It's a cool poster, and like it would, in no indication whatsoever that it's actually a horror comedy.
Facts.
Yeah.
1,000% facts.
Even if you watch the trailer, like, you have no idea that this movie is what it is.
Okay, so that is exactly what I did. I know we're jumping way ahead to talk about the movie already, but like, I watched the trailer right before you came over to watch it, and was like, okay, like, this seems fucking awesome. I'm into it. And then like, it went a direction that I was not expecting. I did not think it was going to go the direction that it did. And then it did that pretty early on. And I was all for it. So like, I wasn't expecting there to be like ghosts and like actual like characters who are ghosts, who are like his buddy cops type of vibes. And like, second that like these animated like fucking ghosts showed up, I'm like, oh shit, this is what we're doing. Okay. All right, let's go. So but it was good.
Yeah.
It's good. I liked it.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, so episode 25, The Frighteners. If you're watching this on YouTube, click the like and subscribe. Leave us a comment. If you like the content, share, tell your friends, tell your family, share with some people. If you're not watching us on YouTube, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, and Podcast Index. And then you can catch some of our short videos on social media at Movie Dads Pod on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. So they get the business part out of the way, but we're movie dads. We've got movie kids. My daughter Reagan, softball's over, so we're into the winter months. She's in show choir. Show choir is getting ready to kick off on its competition season, but she also started this past Monday wrestling. Junior high wrestling, and she loves it.
Nice. Where the hell did that come from?
So it's funny. She had a class with whoever the wrestling coach is last year. And I think it was like halfway through the year. It was like second semester. So wrestling was kind of already over. And I think my wife had gone to conferences, and the teacher was like, has Reagan ever thought about girls wrestling? And my wife was like, no. Why? And the teacher's like, she's got the build for it. But it wasn't like meant to be offensive. It was because she's tall. And she's not a big girl by any means, but she's tall. Like, she's a tall girl.
Like, she looks like she could fuck someone up.
She kind of does. For a girl, she looked like she could throw down, right? Yeah. And she's got like that shaved side of her head haircut too, so she really looks like she could
fucking
tear some shit up. Yeah. If anybody ever, if only people knew how emotional she could be sometimes. She's gonna hear that. Outstanding. What did you say? But yeah, so she started wrestling, so that's cool. And then Des, flag football we thought would be done, but we had practice this week and playoffs started. So we're in the playoff losers bracket, but we're the highest seeded team. Highest seeded team in the losers bracket.
Yes.
But
I was like shocked because I feel like we had now people, let me preface this. These games do not feel like normal games. Like, they apparently keep score, but it's like on an app. So like, there's no scoreboard. You have no idea what time it is. You have no idea what score it is if you're just sitting watching. It doesn't go by like the general like flow of the game where like someone scores a touchdown and then they go for an extra point and then there's a kickoff to the other team. It's like they score a touchdown, they go for an extra point, and then they go back where they were and start over again on a drive. So like, it's kind of like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
And like, there are games where I'm like, oh, we won today. Like, oh, nice. Yeah. And there's games where like, wait, we lost? Like, how did we lose? We scored.
Then there's games where it's like, game's over early because your boys got the crap kicked out of them. Yes. And then there's games that are over early because we kicked the crap out of those kids. And it's like, there is no consistency whatsoever.
That actually was hilarious. So I think you guys weren't at the one where like we kicked the other team's butt so bad that they ended the game. Like, we literally did halftime and then we were back, and then like 2 plays in after halftime, the game was over, and we all, like, the whole crowd of families were like, wait, is something wrong? Is there weather coming in? Like, what are we doing here? They were like, no, you guys won because you scored too many points.
You mercy ruled them.
We did. So that was just, it's an interesting league. So yeah, so when I found out we were in playoffs, I was like, are we in playoffs though, guys? So,
we're in the silver bracket.
Yeah, so fucking A. Yeah, for my family, movie dads, movie kids stuff, we went to the Great Wolf Lodge. Did I mention that in the last pod?
You did. You mentioned you were
going. Yeah,
you're going. Yeah.
So that was a blast. Last year we went. I had mentioned I had got COVID right when we got there, so we were holed up in the hotel room for the whole time. This time we got to do freaking everything. Grandma went all out with making sure that they could do everything. Like, the place has like full arcade, full laser tag, full indoor water park, a Build-A-Bear, and then this thing called Magic Quest, which is essentially you pay for a wand, and all over the hotel they have these different like cool little like digital or like live prop that will react to the wand. Like you wave your wand at it and it'll talk to you. And there's a bunch of different puzzles and games and quests that you go on throughout the hotel. So like we've been there a couple of times over the years, but we've never done that. And they did that this year, and it was a lot of fun. It was Halloween season, so like they had the hotel totally decked out in Halloween.
Cool.
They had like a 3-story freaking spider that was made out of like 1,000 like black balloons, and it was awesome. The kids got to dress up in their Halloween costumes and do kind of like a Magic Quest trick or treat thing throughout. So it was a lot of fun. I had a blast. The kids had a blast. And then we got to go to Legoland after, and I got some fucking Legos. So
yeah, awesome.
It was a fun trip. So
yeah, that sounds like a good time. Huh, nice, good deal. I guess
let's. Oh,
yeah.
let's jump into.
Go for it. Let's go.
My most excited segment, the segment that gets us up in the morning. This is our 6 to midnight. These are the things that we are excited about that's upcoming, new release trailers, casting news that's come out. So, if we're
not a lot of that
game
going on
or something. Yeah. That's a good point. But like
wah, wah, wah.
For me this week, it was they just announced, and they had kind of announced this a while back, but then it ended up being like fake news, but like now it's real news. They're doing a live action Gargoyles from like the classic 1990s cartoon. I don't know. Did you watch that cartoon Gargoyles? Was that
I've seen it, but it was a little after my time.
Yeah, I think I was like prime Gargoyle. Like I remember the way they kicked that show off was actually pretty cool. They did an extended first episode. They basically did a full movie, which I think was a 2-part episode. But they did a full cartoon movie, released that, and then the season like continued after, just picked right up with shorter episodes. So it was like, oh, let's go see this new cool movie because this is going to be the new show to watch. And like I remember the VHS has freaking the guy from Star Trek who's also, gosh, he's Ripley's Believe It or Not too. Why can't I think of his name? Number 1, Riker.
Yeah.
What the frick is Riker's
Jonathan
name?
Frakes?
Yes. So he plays Xanatos. He's like the bad guy in Gargoyles. And he in the movie, in like the original cartoon, they also have like a interactive like board game that came with the movie. So like I'm only talking about this because this is like how I remember the movie and the experience. Like at the end of watching this badass cartoon movie that has live action, or these freaking not live action, but these freaking badass gargoyles that are fighting soldiers on the top of a castle that's on top of a skyscraper. At the end of the movie, they have this like interactive board game, and Jonathan Frakes, also Xanatos / Riker from Star Trek: The Next Generation. He like basically walks you through how to, like, as you're playing the board game. We didn't have the board game; we just had like the movie. So like I remember sitting and watching, like, and he would talk about, all right, now you're gonna do this, and then he would sit for like 10 seconds in silence as you were supposed to be
waiting for you to make your damn move.
Like, and I would just sit there in silence with freaking Riker as we were waiting for his next move. So anyways, they announced they're doing a live action show. It's Disney Plus from what I see. You had pointed out James Wan's team is kind of taking the lead on that, so it should be good. Hopefully, actually, I take that back. It might not be good. It might be great. One of my friends is actually a big Gargoyles fan. And him and I were talking about it when this came out. His like immediate reaction was like, they're gonna totally screw it up. Like it's gonna be crappily done, and like it's not gonna have good CG. But my rebuttal to that was, what if it's like at like the Avatar movies? Like, what if they did a Gargoyles movie with that quality of CG? And then both of us were like, that would be fucking awesome.
And what if they were able to get like some of the same original, like the original voice cast? Too?
Oh, if they get freaking, what's freaking Goliath's?
Keith David, isn't it?
Yes, dude.
Keith David's like the best voice actor ever.
He's like, he's played a ton of characters over the years for shows and movies, voice acting.
Yep.
But like Goliath is, he's like Kevin Conroy's voice to Batman. Like him to Goliath is like, in my opinion, kind of iconic. Like he's fucking badass.
Did you ever see the like 1990s HBO series Spawn? The cartoon.
Yes.
He was Spawn. He was Spawn too.
Yeah, McFarlane's fucking Spawn.
And that show was dope.
Yes, he was
super
awesome.
adult. It was great.
He plays a badass, like deep voice, fucking badass hero or anti-hero.
That's Keith David. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, if they freaking do live action and they don't use him for Goliath or find a way to get him involved, then they fuck this thing up.
Yeah.
So
he's got to be there somewhere.
Yeah, he's got to give him at least a cameo or something. It's
right.
Like, up. So, anyways, I'm excited for that. It didn't really give much info on like when that drops. It just basically was like, this is real and it's in the works. Stay tuned. So, what about you? What do you got?
We'll take all the positive news we can get anymore when it comes to what's coming out, because everything else is just getting delayed.
Yes.
So,
God.
Well, we're gonna hop on the Mouse's bandwagon this week and talk a little bit more about Disney Plus, because I was going to talk about, and I think I mentioned it last week, but Loki season 2 is back. We're a couple episodes in now. I think the third episode just came out. Listen, when they started doing these Marvel TV shows on Disney Plus, I think out of all of the ones that came out, like that first wave, I think Loki was my favorite, because I think it was, listen, Tom Hiddleston's awesome as Loki. He's a great character. He's a great actor. You can tell he's somebody that loves to play that character, because he's so awesome at it. And like, I know he's not like, it's not comic book Loki, right? He hasn't been comic book Loki since like the Avengers movie, right? He's gone from full heel into kind of almost like a anti-hero kind of deal by the time we got to like,
they Harley Quinned him.
Yeah, basically. I mean, but I like that version of the character. Anybody who watched season 1, like, it kind of really was imperative to the whole multiverse thing Marvel's doing right now. If you didn't watch it, like, you're kind of probably lost with what's going on with Kang and like the whole multiverse saga they're trying to do. But season 2's back. It's really good so far. Owen Wilson, Tom Hiddleston and Jonathan Majors is back as, different versions of Kang too. So that's pretty neat. And
is Owen Wilson pretty good with, I haven't watched the show at all. Is he pretty good with Tom?
Yeah, they work really well. It's a really well done show. It's not super Marvel-y. I mean, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I think out of all the shows, I think you would kind of like it, actually, because it tells a pretty cool story and it's its own thing, but it ties in. And I'm kind of curious to see where season 2 goes, because it like basically starts right after season 1 ended. So it's kind of cool to see where that goes. And then if anybody who watched Disney Plus during Halloween last year, they had like a Marvel kind of one-shot Halloween special called Werewolf by Night, which was it was pretty cool. It was black and white. It was basically like, and Werewolf by Night's really a like D-list kind of Marvel character, right? I think he's in the Midnight Suns. Like he's like one of those characters that you would see fighting alongside like Moon Knight and Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
And like I think in Man Thing's in Werewolf by Night, which is cool. Man Thing's a cool character. He's basically like he was Swamp Thing before Swamp Thing was invented by DC. You know, he's one of those, you know, where they were just taking turns like inventing similar characters kind of deal.
Yeah.
But he's in it. And so anyway, they just released it again this week, but it's in color because when it came out, it was black and white, but they released it in color, which it's cool because it still kind of has that old, like a 1920s or 30s kind of vibe to it. I think it's better black and white, but it's a pretty cool. I think it's only like 55 minutes long. So it's real easy to like, it's quick, kind of its own thing. It's like a mini movie kind of deal, but it's pretty cool. But that just came out too. So, you know, kind of excited about that.
I liked it. I mean, I watched the black and white. If I remember right, it was kind of more like Sin City in that it was black and white with like a pop of red. Like there was
like the Bloodstone's like the main thing, and it's red, and so it is.
So, I thought it was very unique, but it is also interesting.
Yeah, because you don't really like when you watch it, you have no idea like when it takes place because it's like very like old. It's like House on Haunted Hill kind of vibes, right? Like they're in this old house with this big like maze garden and stuff. Like everybody's using old fashioned weapons. Like there's like an old record player, but it's like the old like horn shaped one, you know? I don't remember what those are called, but it's like one of those. And, you know, like, I don't know, there's a scene where they're making like coffee around a campfire and it's like a French press. Like there's no, it's so like like fireplaces, torches are light and everything. You just really have no idea where it's at. But like when they capture the werewolf, they have like electronic, you know, like electric batons they're like zapping him with. So it's like, okay, I have no idea when this. I have no idea when this takes place because it looks like it's like 100 years ago, but they have like, you know, zip zap, you know, like cattle prod. But it's cool.
I saw it. I mean, like they do a good job. I mean, like you said, it's a really short, self-contained episode, mini movie.
But mini
like
movie.
They do enough to get you super intrigued of like, okay, why are all these like super like interesting kind of like League of Extraordinary Gentlemen type vibes? Like everyone has different kind of not necessarily powers, but like quirky characteristics. And I think they're like in like monster hunting.
They're all monster hunters.
So it's like, this is cool.
It is. It's cool. It's got a little story to it, but it's pretty neat. And then it's got, a little humor in the end, like, Man Thing, like his name's Ted. It's just kind of funny, but
Ted.
But
the one other thing I didn't mention that I forgot that I wanted to mention just because we're in Halloween season. The new show Fall of House of Usher, which is like a remake or a modernized version of an Edgar Allan Poe poem. I'm a couple episodes in. It is fucking scary. It is basically the same people that made like Hill House and Haunting of Bly Manor. I don't know if you watched Bly Manor.
Nope, just watched the first one.
I remember you doing Hill House.
Just Hill House.
And awesome. Very Hill House vibes, like fucking creepy, scary, and I'm here for it. So if you're in the Halloween season, you haven't started watching that, you should. So.
Awesome. That's great. Well, that takes us into our I can't believe you haven't seen it, Kyle. The 1996 Peter Jackson directed horror comedy, The Frighteners. So I can't remember the first time I saw this movie. It was probably when I was like, probably not too long after it came out. I remember I didn't see this in the theater or anything. It was probably one of those like Friday nights at Blockbuster, in high school. And it's like, hey, I remember this poster. I'm going to rent this. But I remember watching it and I was like, this is really good because it's nuts. Like it's off the wall, kind of crazy in some parts because you have no idea what this movie is. Like what were your kind of initial thoughts like when you saw it? Because it obviously wasn't what you thought it was going to be.
Yes, and like I said, like the trailer does not give you anything to like have an idea of where it goes.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought like, okay, Michael J. Fox is in it. He's going to be like a paranormal, personal, or private detective kind of vibes. I didn't realize he was going to be like a con man, and then I also didn't realize that like, oh, there are like this is like Roger Rabbit. Like we've got animated like
Mm-hmm.
ghosts and stuff everywhere. Was not really expecting that. It was like a ton of fun. It was like exactly the kind of movie that I like, like 90s/80s, like horror comedy. That's like fun. And it's interesting after seeing Dead by Night, or what was it? What's the original?
Oh, Dead Alive?
Or Dead Alive. Dead Alive is it almost feels like he took so much from Dead Alive and was like, all right, I just made this jumbled up fucking weird ass movie, but there were some good concepts in there that I'm gonna make like a better movie with very similar. Like, I don't know if you've thought about it after seeing that, but now like looking, it almost feels like not that it was the same movie, but it was like it felt like they shot in the exact same town. Like
and they might have.
Like the cemetery that they went to, like same kind of like they went to all the same places that they did in Dead Alive. Like they had the manor with like the old lady that's held up at this manor at the top of the hill. And then they had the main character's house was also on the side of that hill. Like, remember, like in Dead Alive, we were like, why is everyone's house on a hill? Like, or on the side of a mountain hill? Like, and that's exactly what this one was. And it was a fun movie, but I thought it was interesting now having seen both of them, how much was similar. But it was just, again, kind of all over the place, but it felt a lot more like it actually had a direction it was going than Dead Alive did.
Yes, Dead Alive was obviously like it knew what it was, and I think that's why we both said we liked it, because it knew exactly what kind of movie it was supposed to be, and it like turned the dial up to 11, right? Because it went just full batshit crazy. I was just reading, it looks like Peter Jackson, in between Dead Alive and The Frighteners, he wrote a movie called Heavenly Creatures, which is kind of the drama movie that kind of put Peter Jackson like on people's radar, right? Because and there's actually a funny scene in Frighteners where the jackass husband's like on the rowing machine, and there's a TV, and they're looking at the TV, and there's a VHS copy of Heavenly Creatures next to the TV. Just kind of funny. But basically they wrote The Frighteners while they were filming Heavenly Creatures. Peter Jackson and Fran Walsh, who also, helped do Lord of the Rings as well, his partner.
Yeah.
And they sent it to Robert Zemeckis, who Robert Zemeckis is obviously a famous producer, director, did Back to the Future, he did Forrest Gump. And he was like, oh, hey, can you turn this into a full-length script? I'm going to direct this movie. And so then Peter Jackson did, and they sent it back to Robert Zemeckis, and he's like, I think you need to direct this because I can see where your vision's going, right? So that's kind of how it works. So Peter Jackson filmed it in New Zealand, which is where he filmed Dead Alive. So it's probably why it feels like it's so it's probably very similar. He likes to film in New Zealand. We know that.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
I mean, it makes sense. Like if I were to film movies, I'd probably film them.
I'm assuming that's where, he's from New Zealand, so he's going to film stuff there. He knows the lay of the land, if you will. But basic premise of the movie. Michael J. Fox, there's a lot of intersecting things that kind of just tie up together in this movie. Michael J. Fox is a con man. Basically, he's a ghostbuster. He's a psychic investigator, right? But he has ghosts that work for him that he sends in to haunt people's houses, and then he charges them money to clean it up, right? Typical con man kind of deal. But he starts noticing some of these people he comes across, because he can see ghosts, right? Like that's the whole shtick. He can see and talk to ghosts, right? Like he can't go in the cemetery. They all hate him because he's a con man. He uses them for monetary gain. And
hold on, I loved So he goes in the cemetery, he talks to ghosts.
Yeah.
Early in the movie, he goes to the cemetery for a funeral, and it's just normal. He's like a freaking sleazeball trying to peddle his card at the funeral. But then when they go back later, after you have now found out that he can talk to ghosts, it's totally different. There's like 400 freaking ghosts all over, and they're screaming at him. They hate him. Like, I thought that was a really good job.
Yeah. They even got old Arlie Ermy himself, to the drill sergeant from Full Metal Jacket, to come in and, you know, pull out fake ghost machine guns and shoot at Michael J. Fox.
Yes,
which is pretty funny.
Hilarious.
But basically, so he cons this one. He cons this one guy. He notices people have like numbers cut in their forehead, which is part of something only he can see. But he doesn't. He doesn't know who's doing it. He thinks one of his ghosts is doing it as like a joke, right? But it's spooking him. You can tell. Anyway, he has a bad run-in with this one guy. He like drives into his yard and basically gets his ghost to like haunt the guy, so he doesn't have to pay to fix the guy's fence. Right.
Yeah.
That guy ends up dead, has the number cut in his forehead. And so then that's where he kind of realizes there's something else going on. And there's an actual ghost that's out there killing people. That's literally like reaching into their chests and crushing their hearts. So then we get this backstory that like he was building this dream house with his wife. He was this architect, and like him and his wife got into an argument. They crashed his car. She dies, but she has a number 13 cut into her head. And so now it's like, oh, this is all whoever killed his wife is killing all these other people, but it's a ghost. So then there's this other backstory where it's like we find out there's this like Bonnie and Clyde natural born killers couple from like the 50s that was like, this guy had killed all these people and had gotten electrocuted. And his girlfriend, who was like 15 at the time, is basically living with her mother, but she's like in her 50s now, right?
Yeah, she's like a recluse.
Right. So anyway, she's basically on house arrest under her mom's care. So we find out this Grim Reaper ghost is this killer has returned, right? And he's targeting people because he's just wants body count. He wants to be the most prolific serial killer in history. So he's killing people from beyond the grave, right? There's some cool scenes in there, right? Like the communication with Michael J. Fox and like his ghosts is kind of funny.
Hilarious.
He's got like the nerdy ghost, the like 70s black, disco big afro ghost, and then he's got like the 1800s judge that's like falling apart because he's such an old ghost, right?
Wyatt Earp, like sheriff.
Right.
Fucking jaws falling off.
Yeah, his jaws falling off. And so that's pretty funny. But it's got some good funny moments. There's an FBI agent that's like into cults and stuff, and he's a nut.
So weird. Yeah. He was the weirdest character in the whole movie.
Yeah.
Like he gave me vibes of the bad guy from Roger Rabbit. Mainly in like looks, like he just looks kind of like, give him this kind of like Hitler Nazi looking, like
he's creepy as shit.
Yeah, he's creepy as shit.
Yeah.
Like, and he has a super weird personality. Like when the first scene that he's in the movie, they're like kind of interrogating / just trying to question this girl about there was a random murder that she was by, and they're trying to get more answers because they think it was Michael J. Fox and she was with him. Anyways, but he keeps walking in and out of the room and like talking to them from like the hallway and then like back in the room, and she then yells, and when she yells, it sends him into like a full-on like panic attack. So
he like
anyways,
barfs.
His character was he fucking throws up, and then you find out that like he doesn't do well with women screaming like that.
Right.
Like he's allergic to women screaming. Like it's just, he's such a fucking weird character.
It's weird. But it's weird, but it's like it's part of the whole shtick of the movie, right? Like, because it's all kind of quirky and weird and off, and this kind of goofy thing. But it works for some reason. Like I don't know. Peter Jackson can make weird shit work because Dead Alive worked. This works. I mean, it just all works. But Yeah, basically Michael J. Fox, he basically has the gal who's a doctor stop his heart and freeze him so that he can be dead, so he can fight the bad ghost. And and then it turns out like the girl that was 15 at the time, she was actually part of it. She was killing people too. Everybody thought she was just an innocent girlfriend who was scared. And
they did a good job making me think that, because they're like, well, it was her and him that went on that killing spree at like the insane hospital, but then she, like you said, she went on house arrest while he got sentenced to death because they basically had said that it was really him. She really didn't have anything to do with it.
She was a minor. She was scared.
Yeah, and she seems very like, not necessarily a good guy, but like the few times you see her and she interacts with some of the main characters in the movie, she seems like a very harmless, probably innocent person.
Well, they kind of set that up. Like the very first scene in the movie is her running around that house with like the Grim Reaper ghost chasing her.
Yes.
And you don't realize that they're together. It's all for show.
And then when it finally, like, the turn happens and you find out that it's her and her lover boy, dead serial killer. She does a great job of going from like seeming totally innocent to fucking batshit crazy.
Yeah.
Like straight from Carrie. Like, and loses her mind. I thought she did great.
Well, it was Dee Wallace was the girl who she was, she's probably most famous for being E.T.'s mom, but she's also like the mom in Cujo. So she's kind of an old school scream queen, if you will, because she's done a bunch of those old horror. She did a bunch of horror movies in the 80s and stuff.
Yeah, which was like the first thing I asked you was like, I recognize her. Like, where do I know her from? So
yeah, she did a bunch of those.
Recognizable face.
Like, let's see. John Astin was the judge. I thought that was kind of a neat little thing, because he's got all that heavy makeup, his jaw's falling off and stuff. But he was the original Gomez Addams in the old Addams Family TV show. So that was neat. Jeffrey Combs was Milton, Officer Dammers, the FBI agent. He's probably most famous for the movie Reanimator. If you've never seen that, that's like a 80s cult classic. He's like the main character in that, but that's kind of what he's from. And then old Jake Busey is Johnny Bartlett. He's the bad guy. Gotta love him. He was the
character that showed up the second he popped in. I was like, Busey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever happened to the least crazy Busey?
Yeah.
So his dad's nuts.
Yeah. What a perfectly casted, like, to be like the psycho killer who's like trying to be at the world record for all-time kills.
Yeah,
get that freaking Busey.
So Busey on brand. But I mean, like, it's a fun movie. It's kind of it's cool. It's because it's not the kind of thing you would expect like Michael J. Fox to do. I think that kind of it's kind of interesting too. I mean, like, let's be real. Like, everybody's memory of Michael J. Fox, because he hasn't done anything in such a long time, like, it was either Family Ties or Back to the Future or Spin City, right? Like, that was kind of that was Michael J. Fox, and I mean, the Back to the Future trilogy is like, it's an all-time classic,
Yes. All three of them are good.
Yeah, and every generation should have seen those. If they haven't, fix it. But
that was kind of why I was excited to see this movie, was because it was like, wait, there's a freaking Michael J. Fox movie out there that's like good that I've not seen.
Right.
Hell yeah. So
because there's just so few, because his career was so short because of the Parkinson's.
Yeah.
You couldn't do a whole lot. So it is kind of neat in that way when you find a movie that, he's done that you maybe haven't seen. So that it works. But yeah, listen, I had a lot of fun with this movie. I liked it. I'm glad you got to watch it. We did get to watch this one together, which was good because we haven't gotten to do that in a few weeks. There's not a whole lot else to say about it. It's fun. It's quirky. I enjoy it. Like, I probably I remember when I first saw it, I think I was so surprised by it that I was like, oh my gosh, I really like this movie. It's really funny. But it's also R-rated. There's violence in it, and there's adult language, but it's one of those movies that they really could have made PG-13 without trying very hard, which I always thought was an odd choice that it was rated R. because it's so fringe. Usually when you go for an R-rated on something, you're going for it, right? Like, making money wise, PG-13 is the way to go.
For sure. And like, as you say that, all I was thinking in my head was like, like this could have totally been like a Disney franchise, like home run if they would have leaned into that, or that whoever ended up, I don't remember what company made the movie. Do you know? Is it?
I don't know. Disney movie? If it was Robert Zemeckis, I would assume it's Universal. Let me check.
Yeah, but like it could have done that PG-13, and because now as I'm just talking about it, like
Universal.
It's a cool concept. Like they could have done this, could be remade and still be interesting. Like the whole like goofy, like down on his luck sleazeball paranormal investigator that really isn't a paranormal investigator. He is a con man, but he's conning people into thinking that there are ghosts by using real ghosts to actually do the conning.
Yeah.
So like it was just kind of cool, and those three ghosts that are like his buddies that are just like constantly helping him were funny. The guy you mentioned earlier that he originally gets into it where he crashes his car into his fence and the guy comes out and yells at him, and so then he turns out like, oh, I owe you a fence. Well, how about I set my ghosts after you and make you pay me to get rid of those ghosts. Right. I got very McFly, hello. Like I got like Biff. I got Biff vibes from him. Like the actor was very Biff like.
Oh, would have been good.
And then when he dies, which he dies pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And then he kind of buddy cops with Michael J for a couple of scenes. Yep. And it's funny. He was like, I thought he did a really good job with the little bit that he was in the movie. And it just gave me like very much Biff and McFly kind of vibes. So like, if you liked Back to the Future, if you like Halloween movies, like this is a fun movie if you've never seen it to try out and just have some fun. I had a good time. It's a good time.
It's a good watch. I would go 7.5. 7.5.
Yeah. If I would have seen this growing up, I probably would have this would be a movie that I would fondly look back at like, oh yeah, I love that movie. Like Steph, my wife, when we started watching, this is the first time that she actually jumped in on one of the watches with us. And the second it started playing, she was like, oh, I know this movie. Like we watched it all the time. So apparently I'm the only one who didn't know about this movie. But I would say,
I'm sure there's others.
I'm going to give it a 7. I'm going to say it was a 7. It knew, kind of like Dead Alive. It knew exactly what it was trying to be, and it did a great job with it. There's a lot of CG in it. The ghost CG, like the main bad guy ghost, was kind of wonky, but not bad. And then how they did the ghosts, like how they just had the actual, like his buddy cop. I say buddy cop, they weren't cops, but like his partners in crime that are ghosts are like, they did a good job. They're like they're like transparent and blue, and like it's very apparent that they're ghosts and cartoons or whatever. But like it was good CG, not bad CG.
I think do you think your favorite part was the museum scene where the judge humps the mummy? Like straight up,
it was so weird.
It's random.
He gives no vibes in this movie that he's like a horn dog.
Yeah.
He literally comes off as like an old sheriff dog that needs to, like, he's hit the end of his road. He's ready to lie down and call it a life. And then randomly when they're having a battle in this museum trying to fight off the ghost, he like spots like an Egyptian mummy and like basically is like, I've never seen something so pretty, and then he disappears into the sarcophagus, and then all of a sudden the sarcophagus falls down, and then you just see like sarcophagus, and you just see his body kind of keep popping up, and how like he's fucking, so it's like, where? Oh, I guess old Yeller freaking sheriff.
You were sitting there like, what the hell is going on? And then he pops up and he's like, I like it when they lie still.
Oh my God. One of the fucking like not like did not age well lines. But like, yeah, he literally goes, I like it when they lie still like that. It's like,
does it make it better? Does it make it better now that you know that it's Gomez Addams?
Yes. So much so. It's like necrophilia.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. But he's dead.
No consent. So they're both dead. So what is it if they're both dead?
I don't know. Better check that one out.
Oh my gosh.
Boy. Anyway, that's our review of the 1996 horror comedy, The Frighteners. It's worth a watch. Check it out. So
yeah, for sure.
Kyle, that takes us into my favorite segment. There can be only 5.
Only 5. Boy,
we're on brand, right? We are full spooky this week, but we decided we're going to do we're going to get a little controversy going today. But let's start off with the palate cleanser, and let's do our top 5 horror comedies of all time.
Love it.
So I'll go first. So I did have 2 honorable mentions. I feel like Kyle this week because my list was super long and I had to narrow it down. So
off.
I had 2 honorable mentions. So
hey, I like to make sure movies get at least a little shine when I can.
It's hard because it's like, oh man, I really want that on my list, but I'm not.
I know.
All right, so my 2 honorable mentions are Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
I knew you were going to have
because I love that movie's hilarious. It's great. If you've never seen it, like it's God, what's that
part of the Evil Dead series?
It is not at all.
Oh, I thought it was. I've never seen that movie, but I always thought that it was a part.
You've never seen Tucker and Dale?
No. Why would I have seen that?
Because it's great.
Clearly, not great enough to be on your list. But just honorable mention.
Tyler Labine and Alan Tudyk, who you've talked about before, are the main characters.
I do like both of those guys.
Does that make you want to see it more?
And we discussed doing a movie upcoming this next week, and maybe we'll have to think about maybe that is the one.
Oh man, I think we should because
I've never seen.
We would have watched that over the Frighteners. I can't believe you haven't seen Tucker and Dale.
Yeah, so don't judge me.
These surprises get me every time. My other honorable mention is This Is the End, which isn't your most straightforward horror movie because it's more like about the rapture and the end of the world. But I think it fits. There's demons and stuff. My favorite thing about that movie is like these people all play themselves, but they're like super like extreme versions of themselves. Like Seth Rogen plays Seth Rogen and James Franco.
Satire versions of themselves.
Like I think Seth Rogen's the only one that actually plays himself in it, like as himself. Yeah. But like there are so many scenes in that movie that are nuts. Like Michael Cera is a womanizing coke addict, which is hilarious. Like Danny McBride is a homicidal maniac that becomes like the leader of the cannibals after and Channing Tatum's his bitch. It's like his sex slave.
I don't know why, but that's like the most iconic scene from that whole movie.
It is. It's hilarious.
He's like, bark, dog, and like the dog's like up in his leg, and he pulls the mask off. It's fucking Channing Tatum.
I know. Like, they're like, "Is that fucking Channing Tatum?" And Channing Tatum's like, "I love him."
Yeah, it's fucking great.
It's the best because it's like so extreme. Anyway, those are my honorable mentions. At number 5, I have Tremors. I absolutely love Tremors. Kevin Bacon, Fred Ward, like it's so, they're like hicks in the middle of the freaking desert, and there's these giant like sandworms that kill people. If you've never seen Tremors, it's awesome.
Hilarious.
The first one.
Awesome. Yes, they've made 400, but the first one is fucking great.
Oh yeah, by far. Like, the other ones don't even count. Like the original, the best casting in that is Michael Gross, who at the time was like the dad from Family Ties. He's like Michael J. Fox's dad. And his wife is Reba McEntire.
Yeah.
And they are like, they have like all the weapons in the world in their house. Like they like, are NRA.
They're full on
ammo sexuals. Ammo sexuals. Like they are nuts in the movie, but it's hilarious. Anyway, that's number 5. At number 4, I have the James Gunn written and directed Slither.
Oh.
Yeah. Have you seen Slither, Kyle?
I have seen Slither.
Okay, making sure.
Yes.
Nathan Fillion, Elizabeth Banks. Like it's about basically alien slugs that like take over people's minds and stuff. Michael Rooker's like the bad guy. Hilarious movie. Really good horror too, but it's kind of gross. It's a pretty gross movie, but it's a good movie. At number 3, I have a tie.
Ooh.
Because I couldn't pick one, but I needed both these movies because they're direct sequels. At number 3, I have Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness.
Oh yeah, those go together.
They go together, right? Because Evil Dead 2 is essentially a remake of the first Evil Dead, but they made it campy. And then Army of Darkness is the direct sequel. It's like Evil Dead's a horror movie. Evil Dead 2 is the same movie, but they've added funny elements to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then Army of Darkness is like full-on horror comedy, basically is what they did. And it's great because they all work so well together. I saw this, and this kind of ties in, but I saw it was like, where does Evil Dead Rise fall in your rankings of the Evil Dead movies? And I remember when we did our top 5 horror franchises, like when we did Evil Dead Rise, and I had Evil Dead on there, not because there's a ton of movies, but because they're all so good. And Evil Dead Rise is its own thing, but it's probably the worst one out of all of them. But it's still really fucking good. You know what I mean? Like, because they're all their own thing. But anyway, that's what I have at number 3. At number 2, I have What We Do in the Shadows at number 2. Which, I think most people have seen the show on FX, right? It's basically
I saw the show because I fucking loved the movie so much.
And we talked about this earlier. I've never seen the show because I fucking love the movie so much. And so I didn't want to watch the show and be like, let down. But you're telling me it's
so good. And they do it perfect because, like you said, the movie is so hilarious. The 3 main characters are like perfectly cast.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It's like The Office meets like spooky Halloween characters.
Yeah, it's like a vampire documentary that's fucking hilarious.
Yes, if The Office was about vampires, like that's exactly what it is. So the show is written and directed by the same person, who is Taika Waititi.
Taika Waititi.
He wrote and directed the movie, and then he also wrote the show. But they basically are like, all right, we want to do the movie, but we can't have those actors, so we need to do basically 3 different people, or 3 or 4 different people that are different characters, but are similar in how those characters acted, and they perfectly cast it. It's fucking hilarious. And then the movie people show up at some point in the show. Like they're in episodes. So it's fucking awesome.
All right, I'm gonna watch it now. I'm gonna watch
it. It's worth watching at least episode 1.
Okay, I'll watch it. Promise, I'm gonna watch it.
Why do you like the movie so much, though?
Because it's that dry ass humor that I love that shit, especially when it's like a fake documentary. Like you said, like The Office. The only thing I didn't really like about The Office was like the cringy stuff. I hate that. Like basically the Steve Carell stuff is like my least favorite part of The Office. But like all the dry joke, like the John Krasinski, Rainn Wilson shit's my favorite. Like that's hilarious to me, and that's basically what we do in the shadows is, except it's with fucking vampires and werewolves, and it's hilarious.
Yes,
and so that's why I like it.
I like found it was years ago. It was like free on Hulu or free on Amazon Prime or something. I was trying to find a random Halloween movie, and that thing kept popping up. I had no idea what it was.
Right.
And I don't know how or why, but I just chose to watch it. I had no idea what it was, never heard of it, and was like, it was so good that I immediately texted like 10 friends, be like, oh my God, you need to watch this movie right now.
It's great.
It's so fucking hilarious. And it immediately became an instant yearly classic for me for Halloween season. So it's fucking great.
Anyway, that's number 2. So
we're talking about number 2. What's your number one?
I know, and they're close. They're close. My number 1, and like this is all about, I saw this movie in the theater and like when nobody did. Like I think I dragged 2 of my friends. I'm like, I want to go see this movie. This looks hilarious. And they went with me and we got done and we were like, that was so fucking good. My number 1 is Shaun of the Dead.
Oh my fucking God.
I love that movie. I can watch that movie anytime. Like I put it in right now and I'll just be like locked in because I love it so much. It's so funny. The Nick Frost and Simon Pegg are so good as buddies in that movie.
Perfect.
Right?
They're perfect best friends.
Perfect. And then when Edgar Wright, like when he made Hot Fuzz, I was like, there's no way it can be as good. And it is. And it's like they made this great like horror movie comedy, and then they made this great like action movie comedy, and they're both perfect. Like Shaun of the Dead, the zombies are great. The gore is great. The music is great. And then just the delivery, the characters, every single character in that movie is awesome. Hilarious from beginning to end. I love it. I watch it a million times.
It's so it is like, it's very British. It's a feels like a British comedy, like
super British.
Feels its own. I mean, but it's just like, it doesn't feel like a typical movie. But like how they do some scenes, how they set up, you know, like in the beginning, they show his normal boring thing that he does every day in the morning. He goes to the little gas station, gets a Coke and a snack, and he walks to work. But like, then they pan over to that scene like the next day when there is now like zombies around
everywhere.
And he's just like perfectly meandering through his boring routine. Like it's fucking hilarious. I fucking love that.
It's great. Anyway, that's it. That's my 5.
Well, let's jump into mine.
Did we have any matches?
We shall see.
Oh, okay.
I've got my honorable mention. And the only reason why I didn't put this on my list was because for some reason there was a little bit part of me that was like, I don't know if I would consider this like a horror movie. But it is, but it isn't. Tremors. I had Tremors as my honorable mention.
Yes.
So like, I fucking love Tremors. I love the original movie. I actually don't mind the second one either. Graboids.
Yeah.
I could talk Graboids all day. It's a classic.
Did you know that Sci-Fi filmed a pilot sequel TV series just a couple years ago with Kevin Bacon as the same character?
God.
And they didn't pick it up.
So there's a Tremors out there with Kevin Bacon.
There's a pilot out there where Kevin Bacon actually comes back, and Sci-Fi did not pick up the show. Which I think it must have been awful, because just just bringing back Kevin Bacon in Tremors alone makes me want to watch it. That should be enough.
Yes,
it must have been terrible. Anyway, go ahead.
I truly think Tremors is like a classic, and
it is.
Like, it's fucking a great movie. And then my other one, we talked about it last week. Ernest Scared Stupid. That's another honorable mention. Like, I think that's a funny, I mean, it's more Halloween, less horror movie, but like, it's funny. Ernest is, it has its very specific shtick but for me as a kid, I thought it was fucking funny. Okay, we're jumping to my list. A couple of these, I feel like we went way different routes, but we'll see. Number 5, I had the original Scary Movie from the year 2000. I don't know. I mean, I know they've made a bunch of those movies, and then it ended up getting to be like kind of, too much when they kept doing Scary Movie and then like comedy movie and they did all these different disaster movie, like all that.
Not another teen movie.
The original Scary Movie was.
Is that the strong
hilarious?
Hand?
Yes.
Yeah.
Think about all potatoes. Of like the one-liners that are or scenes that are classic just from that movie.
Grab my strong hand.
Grab my strong hand. Like that's one. They did a funny ass like where they somehow were making fun of the Nike commercial where like they like the dribble in the Nike commercial they fucking panned into the movie. Fucking Damon Wayne's like getting super high with like a ghost and freaking he gets pulled under the bed and like.
Is it Damon or is it Marlon or is it Sean?
I can't remember which one.
I mean, I know the Wayans brothers. Well, the Wayans brothers made Scary Movie.
Yes, so. And 2 of them are in it. I don't remember which one it is, but like
one of the Wayans is.
Yes, like there's like a creepy clown under the bed that like takes him under like he's gonna kill him, and then all of a sudden like the bed stops shaking, and then the clown's like, "Wait, what are you doing? Get out of there!" And then the clown tries to get away, and the dude pulls him back under. Like that's classic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck, I forget the name of the main actress that's in that movie.
Oh, it's Anna Faris.
Yes, Anna Faris. So they do like I distinctly remember like they did like a whole chastity thing, like the boyfriend's trying to get it and pulls her dress up and she's got like an electric fence underwear on and like there are so many
good.
Fucking hilarious.
The original one's good. I think the second one, if I remember right, the second one was okay too, but after that it was
I don't even remember the second one. I just remember the first one being fucking
I think it's
hilarious.
one of those franchises that like the first
they
and
all run together.
Right. Like so I think some of the scenes
some of the things I talked about.
I think some of those might be in the second one. That's why I'm saying like they get crossed. Anyway.
All right. My tied for number 5 is Scary Movie 1 and 2.
Yeah, there you go.
They count as one.
Yep. Same movie.
I think the Nike one might have been in 2. Or maybe
that's what I'm saying. Like they run together.
Anyways, also we didn't even talk about it. Officer Doofy. He's like think about him for fucking or one of the most classic
super offensive
scenes.
Now, isn't it?
Well, I mean,
make that now.
Yeah, that's a good point. We should.
You can't make a lot of shit now. Oh no, you're
talking
about a movie. It's all right.
Where he comes out and he's calling for his brother, and he walks out in his underwear with his vacuum cleaner.
Oh yeah,
clear fucking hard on. It's like, don't bother me when I'm cleaning my room. Like, my brothers and I used to yell at each other that all the time. Anyways, number 4. I think this movie, I really like this movie. It's kind of, some would look at it as a comedy. Some would just think it's like its own thing. But Dark Shadows with Johnny Depp. I freaking love Dark Shadows. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie.
I never saw it because I watched the show and and the movie looked dumb, so I didn't watch it.
Yes, it's a movie, like a remake of a TV show, but I like that movie.
It was like a soap opera, like a horror soap opera, like the original one, and then they remade it in the 90s, and that's when I watched it. It was it was like prime time. It was like it was very serious, like vampire drama, and then Tim Burton made a goofy movie, and I was like, eh.
Yes, Johnny Depp. I mean, you know him in like characters, like him in freaking He is really good at going full into a character, and there are so many parts in the movie where he like he's a vampire who's from the past and brought back to life in the future, and the way he reacts to like future things they do a good job with it. It's
Nice.
funny. I think it's a fun movie.
Worth a watch.
It's worth a watch. Yes, it's definitely worth a watch.
Maybe save that one for another episode.
Maybe it's worth it. And then I'm going to my number 3, and maybe this is more just I felt like it deserved to be in this, but I had Rocky Horror Picture Show as I mean, it's like a horror comedy. Like
it's its own thing, that's for sure.
It is its own thing. It's a classic, but I like the movie. I'm one of the people that if it's on, I'll watch it. Like I'm not gonna go out of my way to like look it up, but if it's on, I'm going to watch it.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's one of those ones that like when I was trying to look stuff up for our next list, it popped up a couple times, and I was like, no, I don't think that qualifies because I think Rocky Horror it's so original and its own thing, and it's I don't know, like it's the way it's just made the test of time, like
yes, like an instant classic.
Exactly, like you can't. Yeah, it is what it. Listen, you don't have to like that movie, but it's its own very unique thing.
Yes,
and yeah, it's comedy, drama, horror. It's everything. It's all in.
When I was the first time when I saw when I was younger, a kid, I didn't get it, and I thought it was a fucking weird movie, and like did not care for it at all. But the older I got, the more I understood what it was doing, and like love it. And anytime they do like a show of it, like an actual like not Broadway show, but if it's in town, like I'm trying to go and see it because I like it.
And Tim Curry rocks. We've said that a few times.
Yes,
Tim Curry rocks.
He is perfect in every role that he's given.
He was it's kind of on subject, but like New York Comic-Con was last week. Like the New York.
Oh yeah,
he was there. He was there. He's in a wheelchair. He can't talk very well, but he was like. He's been sick. I said that when we talked about him before. He's been sick for years, but he still goes to cons, like the big ones,
and like takes pictures in like a vegetable.
Yeah. Jeez. I mean, it's not a vegetable, but like it's just not in good health.
What do you think? And we've talked about him now 2 or 3 times,
or 4.
What do you think? Yeah, it's probably true. What do you think is like? Going up to Tim Curry at a con, what character do you think people go to him more for? That they're like, oh my God, it's Tim Curry. You're
at a con? I would say Rocky Horror. I would say Frankenfurter. Maybe Pennywise, probably 2.
Yeah, I was like probably Pennywise. Yeah.
I would probably say Frankenfurter.
Yeah.
I mean, like if I went up to him at a con, probably Pennywise would be mine.
Yeah, I'd be like, holy shit, Pennywise and the greatest Joker that never was. That's exactly what I would say to him.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've heard his
Long John Silver.
Oh, that's actually probably what I would say.
That is what you would do.
Yeah, you are you're Michael Caine to Scrooge for Long John Silver. Like you are the best Long John Silver ever in a movie, and it just happened to be a Muppet movie. Okay, my number 2 movie. What We Do in the Shadows.
Nice.
Fucking hilarious.
Nice.
Hilarious. I won't dive in too deep because we already talked about it.
We talked about that one for a good long while.
Yeah. It's a great movie.
It's fucking great.
If there's any movies on this episode that we talk about that you have to see, that is one of them. Or that should be the one. And then my number 1 horror comedy, Shaun of the Dead.
Fuck yeah, let's go.
Let's go. Love Shaun of the Dead.
It's great.
My friends and I were like nerds about this movie. Like it's fucking hilarious. We talked about it. I like their other movies that they've done. I do think they're good. I don't love them as much as I love Shaun of the Dead.
If I rated them right now, like I would legit, Shaun of the Dead's a 10. Like Hot Fuzz is a 9.5.
Yes.
And like World's End's an 8.5. Like they are, but like Hot Fuzz to me is close because it's so good.
Yes, they are fucking hilarious. Personally, I think Shaun of the Dead is the best zombie movie out there. Like, or if I was to say, like, what are your top 5 zombie movies? That would be at the top of mine. maybe not necessarily like the best overall zombie, but it's fucking awesome.
For the quality of zombie, but for the movie about a zombie apocalypse.
Yes,
you are right. It would be number one.
There's hilarious moments where when they take zombies out, like how they kill and take zombies out in the movie is fucking hilarious.
Oh, where they're throwing the records,
skateboard. Yeah, they're throwing stupid
they're going
shit
through
at
the
him.
box, and he's like, he's like pulling them out and throwing them. He's like, wait, what was that? And it's like, you can't throw that one.
Fuck, that's what we should watch for our Halloween episode. They also do a really good, like, this movie goes from being super goofy comedy British shtick to like they do a good job of really bringing and like getting like a serious kind of sad tone when his mom
100%.
Like his mom turns and he has to take his mom out.
Or when his stepdad turns, right? And he hates his stepdad. They don't get along, and then he's about to die, and he's like, I just wanted you to grow up and be, tough and stuff. And then they have this moment, and he dies. Yeah, but then it's like back into the whole comedy. It's it's.
I
good.
think
it's
that
so
is
good.
probably why I like the movie so much, was because they do a good job of like. There's a little bit of serious moments that make it really sad and really make you like the characters.
It's one of those things. Like, I always feel like when they do movies like where bad things happen and they take all the humor out of those movies, there's no way, right? Like, because like we live our lives like with humor in them, right? Like we're constantly making jokes and we're, giving each other shit and stuff like that. Like everybody. And it's, whether it's your family, your friends or whatever. And I think it's one of those things I think Shaun of the Dead does really well, because it's like, that's the kind of dumb shit I would do.
Yeah.
If that happens, 100%,
Yes. Especially.
I would be the one that would be like, let's go to the fucking bar and lock ourselves in. Let's go.
They're like, what do we do if the world is ending? What do we do? Let's go to our fucking best spot, the bar, and we'll just fucking post up.
Yeah.
I think my favorite part of the whole movie, at least one of my favorite parts, is it does a good job of showcasing true best friendship.
Yes.
Like it's super sad. His best friend gets bit. To try as he's saving him, he's gonna turn, and you're like, "Fuck!" He lost everybody. Now he's losing his best friend. But then at the end, he fucking goes back into his shed, and he's right back to playing video games with his best friend, who's a zombie. But he's still fucking gaming.
He like tries to bite him, and he's like, "Stop it!"
Playing
video games. Yeah,
what a great
good
movie.
It's
Anyways,
so
good. That was my list. We had obviously the same top two.
Yeah, our top two. So, we rocked it. Yeah.
Those were really the two movies I wanted to talk about. I didn't really care about
and that's good. And it worked out because we both got to talk about them. I almost had on my list and I left it off because I don't think people see it very much as a comedy, is Arachnophobia. I almost had that on my list. That's a good movie. It's got some really funny parts to it, but it's, but a lot of people are terrified of that freaking movie too.
Yeah, if you have a spider phobia like my wife, that would be like the scariest movie ever.
I used to really hate spiders, and like when I first watched that movie, it freaked me. Like everything, turn the lights off, and I'm like everything's crawling and shit, But yeah, that's a good movie.
That movie, and she hates clowns too, so she's never seen any of the It's because it would ruin her. It would ruin her life.
Yep, show her Killer Clowns from Outer Space. That's a good one.
I don't think they're not like scary, and
no, that's why it's like in between. They kill people, but they're not that scary.
Pennywise is like the culmination of her like ultimate nightmares. Like that's what she thinks clowns are. So
that's fair.
Okay, let's jump into the other list that we had, and this was your suggestion, so I'm not gonna own it like this was my idea, but I'm gonna take the lead on it since you did it.
I thought we haven't done a good like divisive one in a while.
Yeah, so controversial one.
Let's go.
So this list was there can be only 5 overrated horror movies. I had a tough time going through this with because sometimes I want to be like, well, I just want to do the whole franchise. and not a single movie. And then as I was doing that, there were a lot of franchises where I was like, fuck, I love the first movie, but the rest of them suck. Tremors is a good example. Great first movie. Everything else sucks. Saw, great first movie. Everything else sucks.
Yep.
So I went with individual movies.
Good.
And I did have one honorable mention. I originally had two. Well, I had one listed as number one, and then I moved it to my honorable mention because I didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But then I moved it right back to number one because I like to live life on the edge. But my honorable mention is the original Psycho. I don't know if you've ever seen Psycho.
I've seen Psycho.
It's so boring. What a boring movie.
I don't disagree.
It's just like, and maybe this whole list, that's going to be pretty much the extent of how I describe these movies. But like, I know it's looked at in cinema as like a classic film, but it's fucking boring. It's not a movie I want to put on. I've never once gone to sit down to watch Psycho, and I will never tell anybody to watch it. So that's my honorable mention. And then my number one, or my number 5 overrated movie is, let me make sure I know what year it came out, just so I can make sure. 1984, A Nightmare on Elm Street. The original Nightmare on Elm Street. I know that Freddy Krueger is an all-time classic character, but the original movie just doesn't do it for me.
Wow.
It doesn't scare me. Not to say like, oh, nothing scares me, but it's just like, yeah. Like when you said the other day that they did a remake and a reboot, and like I should be like, oh, dope! Like they're redoing Nightmare on Elm Street. Like I want to go watch it. The original and the entire franchise, I think, are completely overrated.
Hot take.
No thoughts. I'm telling you.
Okay.
This whole list is gonna be like this.
Like,
so you know.
I know, but like, I don't want to give away part of my list yet. But like, the thing about Nightmare on Elm Street is it's so creative to me. The whole concept, like, Freddy has this. He's a child murderer. The parents fucking burned him alive, and now he's coming back to get their kids, right? Like in their dreams, which to me is such an original concept. And Freddy is so like creative, right? Like whether he's sucking people through their fucking waterbed, or he's like sticking his tongue out through the phone, and he's like, you know, like, it's a movie that, how do we find, like, what are cool ways we could kill kids? Yes,
it's pretty much
yes,
the
it is, and that's
movie
but
franchise.
Like I think Freddy as a character, like it's not like that's not my favorite horror franchise, never has been. But I have a hard time because it's so creative. That's why I have a hard time with that one. Damn. Damn.
My friend was over today as I was going through these, and that was one of the ones that I mentioned out loud. I don't give him all of them ahead of time because he listens to the episodes. He liked it. And when I mentioned that, he actually had the same response of like, it's like, what? Like, that's a really terrifying movie. It's super original.
My favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movie is the last one, is Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Because it the literally,
last one, as in the last one. When did that one come out?
Oh, I saw it in the theater, so I must have been in high school. So late 90s.
Okay.
Like, but in that one,
so not the last one that's come out, because there's been
no, not the remake, not the remake, not the remake.
Yeah.
But the last one in the original series, right? Wes Craven's New Nightmare is its own thing, and I'm assuming you haven't seen it. Like Wes Craven plays.
Actually, I think
Wes Craven plays Wes Craven. Robert Englund plays Robert Englund, but it's like, it basically is a story about how, and it's the gal from the first movie, the main character, in her real life. And it's basically how Freddy has now become real in the real world, and he's coming out of the pages of scripts. And but it's
I actually have seen that.
It's not the same Freddy. It's a much larger, darker version of Freddy. Like, he's hulking, and he's like, the knives are actually part of his hand, and that's my favorite one. I think that's the best one.
Actually have seen that.
Yeah,
I do specifically remember, like, it was like, okay, now this movie we're in like the real world, and Freddy was actually like a movie.
Yeah,
that's now become. I do remember that. So, love it.
Carry on.
Let's keep going down the list, because that was my number 5.
Yeah.
Number 4. This movie, it got a remake recently. Well, I guess within the last 10 years, this movie is looked at as like, I guess, an all-time horror classic to me. It's The Omen from 1976. It's fucking boring. Another super boring ass movie. We've got classics from back in the day, like The Exorcist, that are like movies you could still go back and watch and be like, wow, that's scary and good. The Omen's not one of them. Nobody cares about Damien. We don't care. There's the one great scary scene with the nun on the building, and she jumps off.
Is that the one with the pane of glass where it cups the dude's head off and it just fucking spins?
Yes.
That's the best part of that movie.
So I can't remember who was in the remake of it.
It was it Naomi Watts?
It was just as boring as the original one. Like,
it was.
God,
right.
What a boring movie. Which makes sense why they haven't made a bunch of them. So that's my number 4. Number 3, this might be more of a hot take for like the youths that listen to our not kind of the youths, but 2013 The Purge. Who cares? I don't care.
I like those movies.
The Purge is it's a cool concept. Like, what would happen if like the world, like, hey, for one whole night anything is fucking fair game. Cool. Let's do it. It was all right. Like, it's super random. More of like, I don't understand how this got like all of a sudden now we're on like The Purge 14. Like, there's a million of these movies. The only one that I will say I fucking thought was dope was basically a Punisher movie.
The second one.
That's the only one that is like dope. They're like, let's just make a Punisher movie, but like we can't call him the Punisher because that's pretty much so. But yeah, The Purge, the original one, it was like, well, I didn't think it was good enough to kick off a franchise of 12 movies. So throwing that out there. All right. Number 2, I've got a tie. The original Child's Play. So Chucky. I actually think the whole franchise of Chucky is fucking super overrated. I like Chucky's Bride. I thought that was a good single movie, but like Chucky itself and all of them. How many times do we see the same thing? No one cares. The doll's not scary. No one cares. And also right next to that, the original Friday the 13th. I don't know if you've watched that movie recently.
I have.
It is not good. Maybe back in the day when it came out, way back in 1980, I could see it being scary and controversial. But the last time I watched that, there was a brewery in Omaha that did like a late night viewing, and we all went, and it was like this cool, like, oh, we're going to watch Friday the 13th, the original. And then all of us literally laughed like we were watching a comedy movie the whole time because it's so bad. I just think it's an overrated movie. You're really holding back right now. You're not jumping in at all, and it's making. I
jumped in for Nightmare on Elm Street.
I know because I like I said at the beginning, or maybe I didn't say it on camera, but I said before we started, like, I think my list is just going to say more of like my age. It's going to be like
you're all over the place. Boy,
I just
finish your list. Finish your list.
These movies aren't movies that came out. Like, I didn't go and see these movies in theater. Yeah. So to me, I'm like, I just don't get the hype.
All right.
I get the hype. I get why they were. Okay. But because I didn't see them when they came out, and there's been a lot better things that have come out since then, they are, I think they're overrated.
All right.
My number fucking one overrated franchise, but I'm going to go with the
franchise
number one
or movie.
Well, I'm going to say the movie number one, and then overall the franchise itself. I've got The Evil Dead. This fucking movie and franchise. They are
the fuck out.
I give 0 fucks about the franchise of The Evil Dead. And I don't think there's a lot of people out there that do like it, with the exception of the cult following, which when I originally jumped on this podcast, I did not realize that I had one of those culties on the pod with me. You have been such an Evil Dead fan that it has forced me to go back in and rewatch some movies and make sure like I'm knowing what's going on. But The Evil Dead, like The Exorcist is coming out with a new movie. Fuck yeah. I'm going to go see that. Fucking Halloween's bringing it back. We're restarting it. Hell yeah. Let's go see it. Evil Dead's doing another random ass movie. Is this one a sequel to a horror movie, or is this a fucking comedy movie in ancient times?
Holy
what the fuck
shit.
is going on? God, I just don't care. It's so
son of a bitch.
It's so overrated. Oh man, I'm sorry. I couldn't help it. I had moved it to my honorable mentions. It did start out as my number one, and then I thought, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put it in my honorable mentions.
Fuck.
But right back to out of all the franchises, like Freddy is enough for me to be like, I might be interested in the remake that they've made, because like its franchise has been out enough. Like Friday the 13th, same thing.
Okay.
Evil Dead's one of those that I'm just like, what? Okay, let's go see Evil Dead. Yeah. Cool. Oh, there was like stuff in the movie that were callbacks to the original and the second one or the third one. Oh, okay. Like, it just doesn't do it for me.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Damn.
I couldn't help it. I couldn't fucking help it. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. That was not the purpose of this. But the way you said, like, fuck it, dude. Like, just who cares? Say what you're thinking. I was like, okay, fine. I'm gonna put it right back where I had it.
Get my Army of Darkness poster out of the closet tonight and putting it back up somewhere.
Oh my god. I promise you, it has nothing to do with you, Howie.
Yeah.
Why that franchise? I've never known anyone also that loves it like you do, and that's so fine. That's just, I've not had anybody that's been a nerd about it, so I've not like dove deep with it, if that makes sense. I did like the more recent one. I liked it. It was a good, scary movie.
Did you?
Did you?
Did you really? Fine.
Oh my god. I'm dying. Okay. This was not an attack at you. This was just all of those movies.
I'm going to need to stop the podcast so I can cry for a minute.
All of these movies / franchises to me are like 1 or 14 versions. How
glad
many
I'm not wearing my Evil Dead
care.
Boomstick t-shirt tonight like I was wearing last episode.
What a perfect timing that would have been if you were.
It would have been.
Jump. What do you got? What do you got?
All right. Let's see how this goes. All right. My most
so flustered.
Overrated horror movies. I did single movies. I didn't attack whole franchises, but my top 5 overrated horror movies of all time. I had one honorable mention, Midsommar.
Oh, dude.
Didn't like it. This is dumb.
I almost put that on my list.
This is boring.
But I had to make room for
it's
Nightmare
like it
on Elm
has some
Street.
it had some shock scenes in it. It's not good. It's like
it was like they were trying to do.
Yeah, I don't know what it was.
They were trying to recapture that. Fuck, why can't I think of the name?
Hereditary.
Where like people are like, that was fucked up.
They're not in the same. They're not close.
Yeah, not even close. I'm with that.
Yeah. All right. So number 5, I'll put this the original movie. It's a whole franchise. I don't even know how many of these fucking movies there are. I remember when it's not Saw, so it's not Saw, but like when Saw, remember like people call Saw torture porn, like that's what they call it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hostel is my number 5. Hostel is torture porn. Is dumb. There's really not a plot. Let's just watch people kill other people. No, it's dumb. Like I don't care. Like you're just watching that because you want to watch people get like cut up or their freaking Achilles slice with a razor blade. Like,
I remember. Okay, so here we are.
I don't like it.
Here we are with opposite lists of hating on movies that the other likes. I actually fucking loved Hostel, the first one.
You're sick.
And it made me, well, I think I was in like high school or junior high when it came out, so it was like I was a little bit older. But it made me scared to travel. Like I don't think at that point I had traveled anywhere alone. So like made me think like, oh my God, if I go to another country, like this shit could happen and there's no one to help me. Like, this is terrifying.
Sure.
Like
that shit
the eyeball thing when they fucking burn her face and she has to cut the eyeball.
I don't like it because I don't see a purpose in those movies. I just don't. I don't understand why people would like it because I don't. It's dumb to me.
I kind of like your explanation of Nightmare on Elm Street. For that, like to me, it's an interesting concept of like there's just this regular hostel, nothing to think about, but actually there's a whole underground like black market of people that there's evil people out there that like to do this shit and they're paying money to have random travelers get pulled in to do it.
I watched the first one.
Sorry,
I never watched any one of these ever again.
I would never watch any of the other ones because it was fucking scary.
All right, hot takes. Here we go. Ready?
Let's go.
Number 4, the original Halloween.
Oh my God! Listen, of all people,
it's overrated.
Wow.
I like Michael Myers as a character. The franchise as a whole sucks more than it's good. Okay, like there's 2 legit good Halloween movies to me. It's the first one, and then the requel. Like that's it. Those are the ones that are good. But the original, and I just watched it not that long ago. It's not a bad movie, but I don't think it's great. I would much rather watch the 2018 one, and I know that's a hot take.
Yeah.
And again, I think this kind of ties in with your Psycho one. Is like when Psycho came out, that was controversial, and that was the new hotness, right? Like that was
yeah.
And I think that's what Halloween was, because Halloween birthed the slasher, right?
Yes.
And they had a great concept of a character. The movie's slow. The movie's more suspense than anything, but it's kind of boring.
Yeah.
And Michael Myers, this goes back to my Freddy Krueger conversation too. He's not creative. He's kind of boring. Stabby, stab, stab. Right? Like
stabby, stab, stab.
That's it. That's Michael Myers' thing.
You tipped your hat last week, actually, when you said, because you said, I think last week, you're like, I would much rather watch the requel, the more recent one. So, not that I thought you would have it on this list,
right? This is, and again, this isn't a bad movie. This is overrated.
Yes, color me shocked.
Okay, so Now at
Keep
number
bringing
3.
on.
Okay.
Keep going.
Number 3. This is the only one we have that matches. The original Friday the 13th. I have it number 3. I am a Friday the 13th junkie. More than I'm an Evil Dead junkie. I'm a Friday the 13th junkie. Fuck the first one. I don't give a shit.
It's so fucking bad.
Like,
and it's not even a Jason Voorhees movie.
That's the problem with it. Like the whole thing with you never see the killer till the very end, and it's fucking old lady Betsy Palmer. Right? And you're like, what? Michael Myers is at least an interesting character throughout the first one. Betsy Palmer as Mrs. Voorhees is not. And then that's why the second one is where the franchise really starts. Because, hey, Jason really didn't drown. He's living in the woods. He's a freaking deformed hillbilly now.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool.
Agreed.
He's scary. Right? And then in the third one, let's give him a hockey mask. Fuck yeah, let's go. Now we're cool. First one. Nope.
Yeah. That's like a lot of people these days don't know that. Like the first 2 movies, like we think of Friday the 13th, we think of hockey mask, stabby killer guy.
Yeah.
And that for the first 2 movies, well, first one for sure, like it's just
mom.
It's the mom, and it's fucking boring.
Yeah. And then the second one, he's wearing a flour sack on his head with an eye hole cut out.
Yeah.
Which, so you've seen the remake of Friday the 13th, right?
Yep.
So they basically, the before credits scene is the mom, right? That's like during the credits is the mom scene, right? Then we have the before the title card scene, which is potato sack over the head, Jason, right?
Yes. And then
we
boom.
Boom, hockey mask. Let's go.
Then we get to what everybody cares about. You could have done the first 2
the
movies
remake's
in 2
not
scenes.
a great movie. It's got more like it's more like a softcore porn. Like there's so much sex in that remake, but yeah, I mean, like I like what they did with Jason in that movie. Oh, that was good. Right. Anyway, all right. Friday the 13th. Number 2, and this is considered one of the greatest horror movies of all time. And this is because I read the book before I saw the movie. And the author, I know where you're going. The author also hates this movie, The Shining. Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. Listen.
How dare you?
It doesn't come close to the book. It's
like in terms of scariness?
It's not even the same. It's so off. They changed too much. It's not right. I didn't care for it because
I've not read the book.
I read the book first before I ever saw the movie. And then I saw the movie and I was like, I hate this movie because it ruined the point of the book.
Which is?
So Danny's so they made a sequel called Dr. Sleep where Danny's grown up and he has the special power, The Shining.
Yep.
It's about him. The book's about Danny as a kid and the power that he has, right?
Yeah.
It's not as much about the hotel. Yeah. And as the hotel takes over the dad's character, right? The dad ends up saving Danny in the book, and they completely ruin it in the movie. It's just I didn't care for it.
Did you like the Dr. Sleep movie that was made?
Saw it. Never watched it.
Oh.
Never watched it.
I saw it.
Because
it was
of this. Because of this.
Fucked up. Fucked up things in that movie.
I'm sure it is.
Fascinating. I shan't believe that I would have thought you'd put that on.
I don't get it, but that's because
the book.
I was a fan of the book.
That makes sense. That does make 100% sense.
So
that's like me whenever they do the fucking Batman Hush cartoon movie.
Okay.
People might think it's a good movie, but the book is fucking awesome and they screwed up the whole thing because they did nothing from the book. Sorry, continue.
No,
give me your number 1.
So my number 1, and this isn't like a big, huge movie or anything. This is the 2014 It Follows.
Oh yeah.
I remember when that came out, and like all the reviews were like, "This is one of the greatest horror movies we've ever seen
of all time." Yeah,
it's super scary. I watched it. It was so boring. I hated that movie. I watched it and I'm like, I just don't get it. Like, I understand what this movie's about. I don't think it's scary at all. I'm not entertained by this at all.
Yeah.
The ghost is an STD. Like, like who came up with that? Like, who was doing LSD and came up with that idea? Like,
yes.
Really?
And who's watching this and calling this one of the best horror movies of all time? It still makes lists.
I know, and it's like a 95 on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, every critic freaking loved it, and I had to put it at number 1 because I've never watched a horror movie and just been like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
That until I saw this, and I was like, I'll get it. I'll get it all. At least like with Midsommar, it was like there were a lot of people that were like, it's not Hereditary at all. It doesn't come close. It's just, it's weird, you know? And that's kind of how I felt about Midsommar. Like, I came out of Midsommar and I was like, I don't know what that was. Like, I don't know if it was good and I just didn't like it, or if it was bad. And, like, It Follows was bad. I just didn't like it. I was dumb.
Agree.
It was dumb.
I agree. And then I did not, I mean, I didn't have my number 1 or on my list, but I also thought that movie was not.
And that's why I put it is most overrated. I had to put that one at number 1 just because of the way it's viewed for a movie that's been out in less than 10 years. And it makes all these lists. And I'm like, I don't know why. I don't get it.
Yeah, this doesn't deserve to make any top horror movie list. And it's on all of them.
It could like put it on a top 10 of 2014. Maybe you can make that list. Maybe
that's looking good.
That's all I got. But like, there are other movies that have come out in recent. Like, Talk to Me, is way better.
Yes,
like you put that on a list, and I'd be okay.
Drag Me to Hell. That's another one.
That's a good one. That's almost a horror comedy too. That almost could have fit on that list. But
yeah. Look at us, just stirring up some controversy, giving some hot takes for the shorts. I think if we post a clip of you talking about Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers 1 like we did, you're gonna go viral.
Maybe.
So
I just, and that's, like I said, I can watch the original Halloween. I could sit there and watch it. It's a good movie, but I just, like, the only thing I think, and again, I'm going to go back to what you said about Psycho. Like, I feel the same way about Halloween that you feel about Psycho. But it was like, it was, for the time, it was groundbreaking, or, it started something new, right?
Yeah.
I think Psycho came out in the 50s. Like, people didn't even sleep together. They had separate beds back in the 50s. And then we have these guys cross-dressing as his dead mother and killing people. Like, that's crazy. I think, but I'm serious. Right. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy, man.
Crazy. It's crazy.
You're crazy. But that's what I mean. Like, people are watching Leave It. They watch it,
sleeping in separate beds.
They are. They're like watching Leave It to Beaver, and then they go to the cinema and they're watching Psycho. Like, that's
a good point. Like, going from Leave It to Beaver to that is shocking.
That's the shock. And that's why I feel like
going from Barbarian to Psycho is like going to the library.
It's different. Yeah, it's just different. And I think that's the same thing with Halloween. I think Halloween's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just, it was, it was the 70s. Episode. Yeah, it was good. That's good stuff. Fucking Evil Dead, man. You're killing me.
You're going to get off and call me immediately. I can't fucking believe you.
Listen, you don't like something, you don't like something. It's fine.
I didn't say that I don't like it.
Yeah, you did. You doubled down on that.
I said that it's
rewind
overrated.
The tape. Go back to the tape.
I said it's overrated.
You're like, oh, there's some throwback. Great.
I said literally I don't
did that.
Care for
you don't
it.
Care. Right. I don't care for it. I don't like it. I don't care for it. Whatever. Same thing.
That's fucking great.
Oh, man. Yeah, good episode.
Yes,
good stuff.
Fun.
That was fun. I like those hot take ones. We'll see how that goes over. I'm glad we got through the movie review part short because those top 5 lists took a while. I thought they would. That's why I was like, let's get through this because this is going to take a minute. But yeah.
I think they're
anyway,
fucking great.
That brings us to the end of episode 25, the 1996 horror comedy, The Frighteners. So we're almost at the end of October. And we've got to do Killers of the Flower Moon. So that's going to be episode 26. But we're going to do a bonus Halloween episode that we're going to try and release on like the 30th, 31st. Movie to TBD after this episode. Are we going to say TBD?
Yeah, I think we keep this one under wraps and we're just going to have a Halloween special.
We're going to watch every Evil Dead movie for Halloween in a row. We're going to watch them all in a row. And Ash vs. Evil Dead, the entire series, all 4 seasons.
And Howie is going to do all of those episodes by himself.
Yeah, so we're going to do a Halloween episode. We're going to drop it on the 30th. TBD. We'll see what we've got in store. We've got a couple suggestions, and then we had a couple pop up for this. So anyway, that's the end of episode 26, Movie Dad's Podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit that like and subscribe. 25.
Yeah, I was like, God damn
it. Killers of the Flower Moon is episode 26. Killers of the Flower Moon is episode 26. Into episode 25. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit the like and subscribe. Leave us a comment and give us your hot takes. We'd love to see those or your favorite horror comedies. If you're not watching us on YouTube, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, and Podcast Index. You can see some of our short clips and videos on social media at Movie Dads Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. That's the end of episode 25. We'll be back next week with the new Martin Scorsese big premiere movie of the week, Killers of the Flower Moon. We're going to try and find some way to get superheroes into that episode.
Yeah, I hope it's as good as one of those big superhero movies that he keeps talking about.
Yeah. That's it. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you next time.
Bye.